All right, everybody, this is Joseph Brothers. We're going to have a great discussion tonight, something more positive than we're all used to right now. Um, we want to discuss matrimony and how people get together. I mean, there is a crisis that nobody's been talking about. Our young people cannot find spouses. In this world, basically, spouse finding is left to just chance luck, um, hookups, and some other horrible situations, maybe internet things. Um, my point being that what we're going to discuss with my good friend Paul and Janet Costa, who I met on Facebook, and forever grateful to Facebook despite other warts and problems. I will say that Facebook at least let me meet Paul and Janet. So on that note, what we're going to talk about is how a matrimony as Catholics and how important it is to actually think about it, organize it, and do it. So I'll leave it to you guys. How are you? Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
Nice to see you and anybody that might be watching this.
Yeah.
We we have a very unique story that could take hours to that up. Um, but
Well, before we get into it, the thing is that people have forgotten there's a crisis. I mean, I have four sons and a daughter, and not one of them have any kind of line to a possible spouse.
right,
Now, as a father, you look forward to being a grandfather. And the problem is our culture is so degraded, so ridiculously politically correct. My sons are terrified. One of my sons asked out a girl at work for coffee. Coffee. Okay, folks? He didn't say, let's go to a disco and do cocaine. He said, hey, let's go out for some coffee. Would you be interested? He spent a week defending himself against sexual harassment and people in the office talking that he was so forward and misogynist. I mean, the whole nine. It was like terrible. So now he's shell shocked. He's afraid to talk to girls. He say because the way the culture is. But as Catholics, it's a cardinal part of our faith to build families. If you're not going to be a priest, if you're not going to be a religious, you should be building a family or something. So I'd like to hear from you because you have a unique story on how you met, where you met, and so forth. I guess that's my best intro I can do.
well, it's we have to give a little bit of a background, I guess.
Sure,
and
take your time.
I don't mean to dominate her, but I think I probably need to do a little background for the.
Well, you're an Italian, so
I'm Italian, so I have to. So, over here, I'm from Boston originally, and I'm a school teacher, and I'd done the same thing as your son. I dated everything else for years, and same problems, and I'm not gonna. It's too much to get into my whole religious background, but what ended up happening was, over a period of time.
Yeah, well, wait a minute, Paul. Wait a minute. I want to say that our religion is important to this.
Well, no. I'm getting some of that.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
So I had been going to the Novus Ordo, and I had felt for a while that maybe I wanted to be a priest, and so I ended up being a Eucharistic minister in the Novus Ordo. Yeah, I know, and I ended up being I ended up going to a few meetings and so forth to start down that possible road.
Sure.
And it had been down in my mind for quite a while, but I knew I really wanted to be married. And so I think some of that might have just been same as your sons. I couldn't find a woman here. In North Carolina, it's hard enough to find any Catholics whatsoever. And then and then the ones you find in Novus Ordo, so that is not, So little by little, and it's a long story, I personally, on my journey, ended up becoming sedevacantist. Okay. And so part of that was being a Eucharistic minister and realizing I should be handling this. And I didn't even know the theological reasons why.
Sure.
I just knew inside something was wrong with this.
Right, something instinctual, right.
And so I ended up and I found this wonderful parish up in
if I may interrupt though, this discussion is not solely just for sedevacantists, but go ahead.
No, but because of our story, it definitely lends itself to that. So I found this wonderful church in Lawrence, Massachusetts. It's run by the Dominicans. It is a Sedevacantist, and it's a beautiful church. And
What's the
so I
name?
ended up going there
What's the
because
name?
I'd visit my mom up there because at Christmas and so forth.
Paul, what's the name of the church? I'm sorry. What's the name of the parish?
Sacred Heart Cathedral.
Okay.
It's in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and they
Okay.
call themselves Willing Shepherds online.
Okay.
And so I know I'm going there and everything else. Well, I was kind of coming to a crisis in my own life where I was getting to the point where, you know what, I just don't know what I want to do. And one night I was sitting here, and this was in 2014, and and there's some amazing parts of this. I got on my knees and I prayed in my house. I was alone, and I really truly prayed. And it was, and we all pray, but at times we pray because it's what we're supposed to say. It's
Right.
not as
Sometimes
much from the heart.
it's you really need to do it, and you feel it more than any other
This
time.
was from the heart.
Amen.
And I had prayed, and I prayed to God. I said, "Look, God, I don't know what you want me to do. Okay, you want me to be single the rest of my life, but not a priest. I'll just continue being a school teacher and do whatever you want, and I'll be happy. I'm going to stop looking for women. I'm done. I can't look anymore. There's nothing here.
Right.
If you want me to be married, you're going to have to bring me somebody because
Right.
there's no." And this is very important for later in the conversation. I even said, "You'd have to bring me a nun because I need somebody."
A what?
A nun.
A nun.
Let me finish. I said, because I need somebody
like Martin Luther.
I said, somebody who knows the history of the church, who knows everything. I can't marry a nun, So it's kind of
what
like
you're saying was you wanted somebody very Catholic, and that's very hard to find.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I'm saying this to him. Okay. Now, on a side note, I got this friend John. He joined the military, when we were in high school, and he was stationed in the Philippines. And he ended up marrying a woman in the Philippines 25, 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And for years and years and years, he had been going on and on and on to me about, "Oh, you need to be with a girl from the Philippines. I know you. I know how you feel. I know you're..." And I, for years, pushed him away. I'm like, "John, I don't have the money. How am I going to get away? Just forget it, okay?" I pushed him away. That's not going to happen. And so this very night that I made that prayer, so I'm done with the prayer. Okay, I said, "Whatever you want, God." And for the first time, I think in my life, I truly, honestly meant it. Okay. So now I go about, I'm watching TV. I'm watching Breaking Bad. Okay. And all of a sudden, I get this friend request on Facebook from some Filipino chick who's living in Hong Kong at the time. And I'm like, "Who the heck is this?" And I'm thinking, "Oh, it's just some stupid scam, whatever."
Yeah, right,
then,
right. Sorry, Janet, but we do get worried. I mean, they do come to us.
Yeah. And then a few minutes later, I get this email from my friend John that says, "Paul, I just gave your email."
Oh, your buddy helped you out.
To some girl who knew his wife. And I'm thinking, "John, you jerk. I've told you how many times that this is ridiculous." And I had just prayed this prayer. So, of course, nothing's going on in my mind about maybe God's actually answering prayer. I didn't put that together so much.
It surprises you when it actually happens. Okay. Yeah.
So,
I've been there.
So I went ahead and I accepted her friend request, but it was truly in my heart. It was only because I was doing a favor to John. Right. I wasn't accepting it for her. And so,
what do you think about that, Jan?
Oh, she's heard this. She knows this.
Oh, okay. All right.
Wait till you hear the rest, and then you'll know how much she thinks. So over the next few days, she's really, really wanting to communicate with me. I mean, she's constantly emailing, blah, blah, blah. And I truly am not paying attention because in my mind, an Asian girl, it's all a joke, blah, blah, it's not real. So she's writing me, and I'm like this. I'm watching Breaking Bad because I was in the middle of a marathon.
Right.
And so I'm watching, I'm like this, and then I'd hear ding, and I knew that she wrote something. So I'd look over, and it's this long in the chat box. So I'd look at like one word, and I'd just hit yes, and then I go back to the TV.
Oh.
I am not watching. I'm not really
signed up for 20 years of magazine subscription.
I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm not doing it. So this went on for a few days and so forth. And then one night it's like 3 in the morning, and at this time I wasn't too savvy with phones. And at like 3 in the morning, my phone rings, but it's not my regular ring. It was like a coming through
Yeah.
Facebook. I didn't know people could make fake
Yeah,
phone
right.
calls.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
remember the first time I got one. Yeah.
I was like, what is this? And I saw her picture. I'm like, what is this? I had no idea what this was. And so she's calling me in the middle of the night, and I'm like, oh no, I blew her off. I was like, I gotta go to work in the morning. Okay, so I really didn't talk to her. And so from my end, I'm like, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, this is maybe a week into it, maybe. I'm walking around my house, and Joseph, it was like God took a hammer and went over my head and said, do you remember your prayer? Okay.
Right.
And what has been happening since that very night? Okay. You know, because I had specifically said, if you don't want me to be married,
let me interrupt you, Paul. So
Yeah.
So Janet, let me get your angle. So what did you when he first started blowing you off? How did that make you feel? Did you realize that's what he was doing, or did it just seem like you, did you have any idea why he wasn't like responding in kind?
Well, I figured that he's not really interested into it, but that phone call that I made, it was an accident actually.
Okay.
That was an accident.
Accident. There are no accidents, right? Paul?
Yeah.
Yes, because I don't know yet to use Facebook at the moment since when I went to before I went to Hong Kong, I've been working also in Middle East
Mhm.
because I just got out from the convent because I was in the convent for 11 years.
A possible priest and a
I didn't want to
possible
say,
nun.
I wish you didn't
She
say that.
ruined it.
That was part of my punchline.
Relax, Paul. Relax, Paul. It's still good. It's still good.
Okay.
It's still very good.
Okay.
Go ahead, Janet. Don't let him interrupt you. Smack him on his head. Go ahead. So you were in the convent.
Yeah, I mean, when it was an accident, I even don't know how to push to stop that calling, and it was I did not know that what is the time here, and he
Right.
actually also answered, and he did not talk to me, but I really stalked him.
Yeah, stalker.
Oh yeah. You're a stalker, right? I was like, oh no, now I got a stalker. That's hilarious.
Not before that. I had to tell that before that I feel it was the same way.
Not yet. No, we'll talk
Okay.
about that after. Yeah, because
Okay.
that's awesome.
Okay.
Okay,
So-
so basically she accidentally calls you.
Yeah.
Right?
All right.
And so she's not actually picking up on the vibe though that you're kind of blowing her off.
Well, she was feeling it, but she didn't. But she was pursuing. And
Janet, why were you interested? Nothing personal, Paul.
that's all right. I don't take anything personal. How could she resist? Look at my hands.
Yeah, look at this.
I'm
Look at this
Italian.
mango here. Hey, paisan.
Well, she actually lived in Italy for 7 years when she was in the convent and loved Italians, and so let me get this
Okay,
part, which
all right,
you
go
kind
ahead.
of opened it up a little. So
Go
that
ahead.
night, I'm sitting in my house, and like a hammer hit me on the head. And I knew in my heart, I knew in my soul, I knew in every fiber of my body, it was God and Mary, and said, you prayed.
Mm-hmm.
And that very night, about an hour later,
I said
look
you
what's
were-
been,
yeah.
there's go back. So what I did is I went back
Mm-hmm.
and I went to the beginning of her very long list of texts for the
Right,
last week.
right.
You know, like a book could have been written. And I started reading them because I really wasn't reading them.
Right.
And then I saw my really curt responses.
Yeah, you felt bad, didn't you?
And I felt bad. But as I was reading them, with every line, with every sentence, with everything, it's like, oh my Lord, this is what I have been looking for since the day I was born.
Mhm.
This is what I have been waiting for. And then when I saw that she had been in the convent, now we're not getting into a big thing because, like you said, it's not all for state of a contest, but
Right.
she was in a Novus Ordo convent, so we
Yeah, it
don't
doesn't
consider
matter.
that to be something that is committed for life.
Right.
So, but when I saw that she had been a nun, and it came into my head, I prayed. I needed a nun. Okay. And I was like, oh my Lord. So I'm going down, 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 down. I'm reading it. I'm like, this is amazing. And so all of a sudden, my heart opened up. It was just like the light went on and everything else. And now I wanted to talk to her. Now I needed to really explore this. And it didn't take long at all. Now
Well,
my
at this point, is she? Jen? Are you in Hong Kong or are you in the Philippines?
she was in Hong Kong.
Okay,
Yeah,
you're in Hong Kong. And
She-
there's a convent in Hong Kong.
No. She had
Okay.
already left the convent.
Where
And
was the
after-
convent, Janet? Janet, where was the convent?
Our mother
Sorry,
house. No, our mother house in Philippines, but we
Okay.
had mission stations in abroad, and I was assigned in abroad for how many years?
Okay, that makes sense. I get it. Okay,
and
so at this
she-
time she's in Hong Kong on a mission.
No. Let me finish.
Okay.
She was out of the convent, so she wasn't a nun anymore.
Okay.
She'd already been out for about 7 years or so.
Okay.
Okay, but now she was working as a nanny abroad. She had been in the Middle East, and some night we'll have to have another conversation, an entire conversation about how I am actually married to something with all the politics going on, and we're not going down this road tonight. It'll be another
Yeah.
one.
Sure.
I'm married to somebody who was a slave.
Wow. Yeah, Janet,
Okay.
we will have to explore that
That's another whole explanation. What happened to her in the Middle East?
one.
Okay. But she went to the Middle East. She went to Sri Lanka. She went to Hong Kong to be a nanny.
Okay.
And things were bad in Hong Kong for her. The lady there that she worked for wasn't feeding her. She was starving. I mean,
Wow.
it was a mess. It was a mess. So we're going on and on. It was only 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we're really going back and forth now. I'm falling head over heels in love, and
Sure.
it's more,
Sure.
and it's more than you and I. We're older now, but you know that feeling of love. This
Yeah.
wasn't that feeling we all get when we're following. This was a much deeper, committed, godlike love. Like this is a woman
Right.
who's worthy.
And if I may interrupt,
Sacrifice.
if I may interrupt, I remember that feeling with my wife, my present wife. Whereas I was a girl's man, I was in a rock band, and I had a couple girlfriends and so forth. The whole story, everybody knows them.
Yep.
But yeah, that depth of feeling for my present wife when I met her, it rung a bell that was different than any bell that got ever rung in my life. And I remember saying to God on my wedding day, I wasn't very Catholic at the time, I'll be frank. But this one thing, Lord, I will keep, and I will, this is it, Lord. If I will marry my wife, and this will be the one thing at least. If I don't do anything for you, I'll do this. And yeah, you're right. There's a bell that's a deeper bell than the regular surface. Boy, she's hot. Boy, I'd like to marry her.
Yeah, God,
Right.
I want to love her.
Yeah.
And go out. And, yeah.
Yeah.
So now I had not, even though I was falling in love, I also knew with my sedevacantism, I didn't know if she had got to that point yet, but something in my side said I don't need to broach that yet.
No, not yet. No.
And but I'm thinking to myself, hey, if she is, she. So only about 2.5, 3 weeks after this, and
We met February 20
and I
online, and he proposed me March 3.
What's the point of waiting?
well, no, and that's exactly it. Because I got to the point, I said, you know what?
Well, let me ask you.
What's the point?
If it's not too personal, let me ask you. So, what were your ages at the time?
I'm 53 now. She's 50.
I was
so I'm
45.
51.
I was 45.
So
You were
she's
45.
45. I was 47.
Okay, I'm just asking. Okay, just to get context. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I mean, at that age, the reason I bring that up, because at that age, it's different than a way of
if you're
maybe
20,
an 18 or a 20-year-old would
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot more logic and wisdom that comes into play.
right? Yeah, and I just got to the point where I was like, you know what? And because so much faith had to be involved, because not only it's one thing to say to her, I propose to be married. It's another thing for the logistics to come together. I'm a school teacher in North Carolina. I
Right.
get to the end of my budget at the end of the month, and I'm like, can I fill up my tank with gas? And
Right.
yet, I'm U.S. law. I've got to visit outside of the country if you're going to bring somebody in on a fiance visa. So I've got to
Right.
travel to another country, which I've done many times before. But This time it was going to be, I have to go through the visa process. The whole process when I started looking into it was about 15 grand. I had never seen 15 grand extra money in my life. And so, I mean, I've seen 15, but not extra. And
All
so,
right.
I said to God, I feel in my heart, I know this is the answer to my prayer. So I said, if you want this to happen, I'm willing to do anything you want, but I need help because where's this money going to come from?
Right, right.
Okay, where's this money? All of a sudden, Joseph, I was working at this little bar down the street, and then when I say a little bar,
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of the country.
The best kind of bar.
The only people that come there are like, at the time anyway,
Right.
were 75-year-old men that had been coming there since they were 20.
Right.
If they left a quarter as a tip,
Yeah,
it was a
yeah.
miracle. Okay. And I was just doing it for a little extra cash, and it was a friend. All of a sudden, people were leaving $20 tips out of the blue. They were just leaving $20 tips. Okay.
Wow.
All of a sudden, some of the guys down there said, "Hey, Paul, I need a hand this weekend putting in a fence. I'll give you $200."
Right.
Okay. All of a sudden, one thing, never more than I needed, because
Right.
this whole thing was as a step. But if I needed $1,000 right now, all of a sudden stuff started happening, and I got 1,000, not 1,200, but 1,000.
Right.
My house had been a wreck.
Mhm.
I had people coming in that were friends. They said, "Well, what painters that are friends? We'll paint it for free. We'll even pay for the paint. We got extra.
Nice.
Okay, we'll fix the floors for you." Blah, blah, blah. I mean, it was just like everything started coming together. Okay, everything started, all that. Well, I had it. Now, part of U.S. law when you're marrying somebody from outside the country is you must meet that person outside the United States. Now, you don't have to go to their country. I mean, you could go to Canada if you want.
Right.
Fly her to Canada and meet her, but you got to meet outside the country.
Right.
Well, why would I do that? Now, I was going to go to Hong Kong originally, but it just so happens, unfortunately, during this phase, her father died. So she had to go back to the Philippines. So once she was in the Philippines, now I could go to the Philippines to visit her instead of Hong Kong to visit her.
Mhm.
And at this point, I was sending her money to help support her. And of course, now that's all the good stuff, but you got to hear the bad stuff is, of
All right,
course.
before you go to the bad stuff, if you don't mind, you
Yeah.
prompted a question that I have for Janet. So, Janet, what part of the Philippines do you live in? And you don't have to be very specific, but just generally. And I think I'm an ignorant American, and I don't think a lot of people realize what the shape and location of the Philippines actually is. I mean, my understanding from what I remember is that it's an actual sort of like a collection of many islands. Is that correct?
7,000 islands.
7,000 islands. And it is a mostly Catholic country, is it not?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And would you say it's Catholic to its root, or is it kind of weak?
None of us are the Catholic.
But it's okay. But it's Catholic. Generally, the air is Catholic, and that's yeah. Okay.
Every building you go in, there's still a crucifix. You go on their jeepneys, which let's just say they're public transportation. There's crucifixes everywhere you see there's some sign of Catholicism.
The Philippines, Paul, existed before the Novus Ordo. So
yeah,
I mean, a lot of this stuff.
So,
my point is that it is Catholic from its roots. Just because the Novus Ordo came in, yeah.
Every place you go, you see that, but at the same time, you also see she-males.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah. So
okay, you also see men dressed as women. You also see strippers and stuff. So it's got both going on.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Well, that's because of the laxity of the Novus Ordo bishops. Yeah. No one else to blame for that. But I was just trying to ask for Jan. So, is there like for instance, he's in North Carolina, I'm in Pennsylvania, there's a guy in Texas, there's a guy in Washington State. In the Philippines, is it like that? Is there like different cultural and you're from, would you say your area is a more conservative area of Philippines, or is there
the different because we have Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, we call it, and we are from the Luzon is coming from north, and I'm from south.
Okay.
So from south is different it's like the same here, North Carolina. The food, the practice, the tradition is
Right, right,
different from
exactly,
North.
right,
Yes.
right.
And the South,
But you
where
have
she's
one,
from,
but you have one government, right? I mean, basically, your
Yeah,
government
we have.
covers.
Yeah, yes, we
Yeah,
have.
one. What is your government? Is it a English or Spanish or colony or something, or is it its own? I
it's
don't
its
know.
own.
I'm ignorant. I'm asking.
Well, historically speaking,
Yes.
the United States saved the Philippines from the Japanese during World War II.
Okay.
It had
Oh
originally
yeah,
been
yeah, yeah. I do
it
remember
had
that.
been a
Yes.
Spanish colony for like 400 years.
Right.
Then the United States, it became a territory of the United States, like Guam. But then we let
Right.
it. The
Right.
United States had, let it go eventually. But the people of the Philippines love us because we saved their butts from, the Japanese. And on
Mhm.
July 4th, I was over there on July 4th, it so happens that year, and they celebrate July 4th as an honor to us. They have they have memorial to McCarthy, who saved them from the Bataan, remember the Bataan
Yeah,
Death
yeah.
March and all that. And so,
We are democracy.
but it's definitely a different country. In the north, where Manila is and all of that, it's three big islands, and then it's thousands of little islands. In the north is where Manila is. She came from the south. I didn't, but she was living in the north when she went back after Hong Kong. So
Hmm.
it was the Manila area that we went to.
So her family's from the South. Your
Her
family's
family's from the
so you're a
south.
Southern girl.
She's a
You
southern
found
girl.
a Southern girl. Nice.
And so, and Muslim, unfortunately, a lot of the area in the south is war torn because the Muslims are trying to take over, and there's a lot of bombings, and there's a lot of fighting on.
Bad weather too.
And I can go there, but I can't go to certain areas there because as an American, I'd be kidnapped. So,
Wow. Wow.
to the southern
When
part.
was the last Janet? When was the last time you were back at the Philippines?
When would you left?
When I left to come here, that
Oh,
was
okay.
2014.
Yeah. So we're gonna go back, but we have to for many reasons. But
Oh, it wasn't. I was just curious. Okay. So our last part of your story was you are now trying to organize, and you prayed to God for money. You don't have money, but you know this is the right thing. You know this is God's will for you in your life to come work this out, but you don't have money, and all of a sudden, angel checks are coming in. There's $20 bills being left for tips. People are helping you with your house, and that's let's go on from there.
Okay, so normally this whole process, everything I'm reading, everything I'm hearing, blah blah blah, could take 2 years, so forth. Between the saying hi and her getting off a plane here in America, the whole process, not what she does after, because we're still in that. But from hello, we met each other to she's now here and we can get married, it could take quite a while.
All right.
So we prayed that didn't happen, and of course, I went on. I'm not a dummy, so I'm like, you know what? I can fill forms out. I don't need to hire a lawyer to fill forms out. You know what I mean? As long as I know that So I found a company that was fairly cheap that does this for a living over in the Philippines. They help people out.
Wait a minute, Paul, I have to interrupt. So we have to get something clear. Right now, you still haven't actually. Have you met her personally at this point?
No.
Okay. All right. All right. Go ahead.
No. In fact, the first step is I'm going to go over there, and then once I go over and meet her, then the paperwork begins. Up until that point, the government isn't involved yet. I have to prove to the United States government that this isn't a scam, because see, a lot of Americans apparently.
We don't have to go down that route. There's a lot of corruption. So, but in your case, this isn't the case. So you're doing things by the book and legit.
By the book.
Go ahead.
And so so now it's March, and I make the decision, okay, now I got to go meet her in person, but I've already proposed to her online. Okay. And so now
how'd you get the ring, Janet? Where was the ring?
Not till I got there. And so I come up, the money comes in, I buy a ticket for 2 weeks, and we
buy
go.
A ring?
Yeah, of course. Okay. And brought it with me.
Sure.
And so we still haven't got to one of the twists about when I prayed about if you want me to be single the rest of my life. We didn't find this out though until later.
Okay.
So come June, you know that she's better at dates than me, of course, because she's a woman. When did I fly over there? So that was June.
You fly over here June 27. You arrive 28 in Philippines.
So I arrived June 28th in the Philippines. And of course, I've flown before to other countries. But in Italy, you know, even though I flew alone, I knew I had family there. In Russia, I was with people, you know. I'm flying to the Philippines. I don't know if I'm going to get over there and get bugged, you know. I don't know,
Right.
I don't know what's
What is
going to
the
happen.
Philippines?
You know,
What kind of food do they have? Who knows?
oh, great food. But so I'm like, what's going on? You know, well, I get out of that airport and over there they kick you out of the airport, and then I'm looking at the door closed behind me, like, what if she's not here? Okay, so
Yeah, right. What if this whole thing finally got you?
you know, so and I'm there 2 seconds off the airport, and I've already got somebody trying to steal my bag. You know, and however, God had sent me an angel even on the airplane. There was a woman who was flying back from the United States to be with her family in the Philippines who ended up sitting next to me on the airplane, and I was telling her this story. She stuck with me till I got out of the airport, and it said, "Look, if she doesn't show up, you can stay at my brother's house. I'm not gonna let you get in trouble." So she stuck with me until she showed up.
And
so we
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So we end up going, and now we're all set. She's there, I'm there. We now have met. It's like I see her running across the
You
the
ran,
pavement.
Janet? Did you really?
Yeah, she ran. She
No.
ran.
God bless
Tell
you.
them that in the airport the the airport in the Philippines is different from here. You have to tell them.
Yeah, well, like I was saying, here in the airport, you know how you see your loved ones off or see them off the plane inside the airport? That don't happen. They kick your butt out. Okay, you're outside and the doors are locked behind you, so you're not getting back in the airport, you know. And so I'm standing outside, thousands of people, waiting for whoever's getting off airplanes.
What's the name of the town? What's
Manila.
The town? Oh, Manila. Oh, the big town, the big time. Okay.
And so I'm standing outside. I've been kicked out of the airport, and I'm like, what if she doesn't show up? You know, I'm in the middle of the city, Manila. You know, it's not the most safe place on earth, and and so. And then all
big
of a
Italian
sudden,
from Boston.
yeah,
Which,
you know, but see, I've always been an adventurer. It doesn't matter. I've always been the kind of guy. You know what? What's the worst that can happen? Everybody dies. You know.
Right.
So what's the worst that can happen?
Life plan. Exactly.
Yeah. So you know, like I said, I've gone on planes and flown to Russia. I've gone on, but you know, because I always wanted to see it. Once communism fell, I wanted to see it, so I went.
Yeah. Right.
But
I'd love to go to Russia.
So I see her running across the pavement from where the spectators are, because they have to be on one side while the airport, like people leaving, are on this side. And all of a sudden I see her, and in my heart, in my soul, in my eye, every part of me said, there she is. That's my wife. That's the woman that I've been waiting for my whole life.
Are you guys the same? Are you guys the same height?
Oh God, no. She's an Asian. She's a shorty. I mean, we Sicilians are short, but she's even shorter.
I didn't mean it that way. I just thought it would be hilarious if she come running over and she was like this, and you were like that.
Oh no, she's a little
Never
Asian.
mind. I'm sorry.
But she jumps in my arms and hugs me, and I hug her. So, and here's two interesting things that happened that very night. So we go and blah 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 blah. We have to get a hotel, all this stuff. I officially propose, give her a ring.
Right.
And within the next 2 hours, two revelations show up. One, we're now talking about everything that's happened over the last 4 months.
Right.
And that's when we find out, and I'll let Janet tell you this. That night that I prayed here on my couch, God, if you want me to be single the rest of my life and not get married, then I will not look for a wife. Now we find something out that I did not know. And when we started adding it all up and putting it all together, the very same night that I prayed that prayer, go, Janet. Janet was praying.
Well, in my story, I will tell you the background also, because I got out from the convent not because I wanted to get married. I was not looking for a man in my life.
Right.
I just got out from the convent because Novus Ordo, a lot of stuff going on. And
if I may interrupt, and this is something we can go down in another interview,
Can we stop you?
She served at the Vatican. She was like with John Paul II was there. She met John
Wow.
Paul II. She served under his nuncio and all that. That's a whole nother ball game. Just to let you know, she was
Yeah,
there.
we'll talk about our travel to tradition because we all have one. But I'm
Anyway,
curious. So yeah, go ahead, Janet. So you were not looking for a man, but
No,
you
I
were
was
out
not
of
looking.
convent.
Yeah, I was not looking for a man, and I was planning my life, working, and maybe in the future I'll be in the home for the aged because I was thinking that I'll be single for the rest of my life. But um, of course, it was February. I remember the same. I did not know that the same day that he is also praying. I was also praying so hard because I said, Lord, because of course I asked him, what do you really want me to do? Do you want me to get married or what? If you really want me to get married, then give me I mean, I have requirements, but but that night also I was also praying. I said, no, I'm done. I will stay my life the forever single.
Mhm.
He prayed the same prayer I prayed on the same night.
Wow.
Okay. And when that revelation came to us, it was like, I mean, you can't even put the words, the emotion behind that. That
Truly a blessed moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
we prayed the same prayer on the same night. And that night we met.
Yeah, because I said if I can find if I can find a good man in my life, I won't. I can't marry. I can't.
How did you first hear about Paul?
It was through my friend John's
I
wife.
asked Janet, Paul.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll keep him in check, Janet. We'll keep him in check. Janet, how did you first meet Paul?
Okay, okay. His friend John
I mean,
Lever.
how did you first hear of Paul? I'm sorry. How did you first hear?
Oh, it was, yeah. John Ledbury's wife is a nurse, is a Filipina. That's how I mean, because,
Okay.
and then John Ledbury has friend like Paul. So that's how I got Paul.
Mhm.
That's it. It's from Facebook. That's all from
Yeah,
Facebook.
right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, like we were talking earlier, the bad things about Facebook. If it was off of Facebook, I would not be married.
No, I know.
Oh.
It's a weird thing about Facebook. It's a shame. It's actually a shame that he has to turn it into a political football like he has.
Mhm.
He's really a doofus because he could be so much more pro human being than he is and
Yeah.
stay out of politics. I mean, let people have their own politics, fine. But basically, Facebook is about what we're talking about here. If he would just stay with that,
Yeah.
nobody would ever bother Zuckerberg, but they can't help themselves. Anyway,
No. Yeah. Leave it
we
be.
digress.
But anyway,
We don't want to. We don't want to
so
digress.
remember I said that night there were two revelations. The first was that we prayed the
Okay.
same prayer on the same night. Here
Right.
was the second revelation. We start talking, and I start right away. The time was not before to like explore sedevacantism. But now that we were actually in together that night, I started talking to her about, oh God, now that we're in an interview, I'm gonna forget the name. Mary's what's gonna happen in the 20th century, blah 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 blah. And we talked about Fatima, but also the earlier one, talking about what was gonna happen in the 20th century. Oh, all right, forget it doesn't matter. The point is I started talking to her about like my beliefs and like the prophecy, blah 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 blah.
Right.
Turns out she's sedevacantist. She was the same way.
Nah, yeah, that's second. Where do you find two
From across
like-minded
the
Catholics?
world.
Yeah, no, that's pretty amazing, Paul. I have
From
to say,
across-
it's you guys are, we're like chicken's teeth. Hard right-wing conservative Catholics, trads, seeds. We're like chicken's teeth. It's hard to get them to bounce together, and that is amazing. That is
Yeah.
amazing.
So we spend the next 2
Well,
weeks.
let me ask you this: then, where were you going to get married? You had to
All
get
right.
married in a
Well,
Catholic
yeah.
church.
Okay. So that's the next part. So okay. So well, I guess I got to give you a little law here.
Sure.
The United States, the way it works is if we're on, there's different visas to bring her over here. The one we were shooting for was like the television show, the 90-day fiance visa. And what that is you got to get here, and within 90 days, you got to be married, or she's got to go home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we were shooting for that visa to get her approved for that.
I mean, I don't mean to be weird, but that's pretty easy. If you already agreed to get married, you just got to show up.
No, it isn't. Because you got to prove to the U.S. government it ain't a scam.
Well, that should be easy for traditional Catholics, because the priests aren't stupid. They're not going to just set you up. But go ahead.
No. This has nothing to do with priests. This is not. Right. This is what I got to prove to the U.S. government before the government issues her a visa.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay.
I got to prove to the government. So now we're together for 2 weeks over there. Everything's great. Okay. Now we want it. And when I leave, most people, we're talking at least a minimum. Everything we heard from everybody at the company. Once I leave, that's step one. We're looking at least a year, at minimum a year.
Wow. Right.
That we're not going to see each other before the paperwork's come up, because the paperwork hasn't started yet. Now my job is I got to go back here. Now I got to go to the U.S. government and I got to apply for a 90-day visa. Now in that process, I have to prove that I've gone and I've met her outside the country.
Mm-hmm. How do you prove that, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah.
Well, listen. With all due respect, this is an interview I'm doing, and
it's like this.
I'm going to hit these questions at you.
The document.
It's not a gotcha question. I'm curious.
The documents are like this.
I mean, I don't understand. Okay, so we were at the Manila Taco Stand at 17th and 24th Street.
Yes. That detailed, especially since they're so worried about scams. Sure, yes. Sure. I had pictures. I had to print out 200 pages of our conversations with each other on Facebook. And by the way, you have to do this more than once. This is just the first time. Okay. Wow. I had to show pictures, but see, pictures can be Photoshopped. So we have to have sworn affidavit witnesses. We have to,
the receipt.
Receipts from everything we did, the hotels I stayed at.
Your passport. Boarding pass.
It goes on and on and on. So,
did you have any family with you when you went to meet Paul?
Yep.
Sister.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You might have said
another story because she's here now. Okay.
No, let's not digress. We'll stick to the core.
So I start getting it all together. It's a process. It's a headache. It's a process, but I get it. And then I send it in with the $800 fee or something like that. And so it's all sent in to prove that we have a real relationship. So, and I don't remember every detail of it all, but the gist of it is it usually takes a long time.
Right.
Literally, boom. Within a week of sending it in, we're approved. We're talking about things that take 6 months. We're approved. So she has her 90-day fiance visa, but it's not issued yet. It gets issued. I've been over there in July.
There's so many processes.
Yeah, it gets issued in February because in between, now on her end, she's got to go through medical. She's got to go through history. She's got to go through. Said she's
so many interviews.
She's lived in other countries, so she's got to go through.
Oh my gosh, that probably be a problem.
Make sure
if you were in the Middle East.
Arrested for murder in Italy,
Who was? You were? No.
So we go through all that. But the thing is, even though that took, from July to February, which seems like a long time when you're waiting for your loved one, we're the exception because the rule is it's usually a year or two. Within 6 months, we proved our case, and she got her 90-day visa.
You seem to be the example, the perfect example, so to speak, of that if we have faith, God is answering prayers, and all we have to do is sit still and accept them sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, originally you were fighting the whole idea that Janet was possibly a legitimate person to even talk to. And now here we are. You're putting through paperwork, and in miraculous ways, things are just laying themselves out in front of you.
Yeah.
Smoothing the way.
And so in February, she's going to come here. Now, here's the thing. We want a real Catholic wedding at our church up in Lawrence, Mass.
Right.
Well, but when she gets here, that 90-day window of being married, does not permit us to be in Massachusetts for that wedding.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Why not? What's the difference?
Because I'm a school teacher and I couldn't take the time off. I also didn't have the money. So a real wedding at the church that's blessed by God. So here's what we planned.
Okay.
We would do, as far as the government's concerned, they don't care if you get married in Las Vegas. They just want
Right. I get it. Right.
So what we did is we did a government wedding, non-religious, just paperwork.
Right.
So that kept her here.
Okay.
Then 2015,
okay,
we go up to Boston to that church I was telling you about, to the cathedral, and lo and behold, and then we get married there in what is the most beautiful, traditional Catholic wedding you've ever seen. In fact, if you want to add to this, I'll send you some pictures and photos or video.
Oh, please do. Yeah,
okay,
great.
Because this is not some small chapel in somebody's back room.
Right.
This is a huge church that is absolutely gorgeous. And it just so happens Father Paul, he had been ordained like a year before. I was there, or 2 years before. I was there for his first Christmas Eve Mass, and we were his first marriage.
Wow.
And so,
like, perfect.
Yeah. And it was
beautiful.
And yeah.
So how can we encourage these types of things happening in the future?
Right.
Especially with our young people.
You have to have real faith, because fake faith, the faith that says, hey, I believe in God, but not really. Or I believe in God, but I don't really believe in the power of God to do anything. That kind of faith is meaningless. Real, true faith. God is there. God is real. God wants you to be married. And if you'll lay down and be willing to submit to whatever it is that he has decided for your life, and you mean it, if marriage is the answer, he will bring you that husband or wife.
Listen to it.
Go ahead, Janet. What were you saying? Amen.
Yeah, I mean, God, whatever happened, I mean, if really God, really, I mean, in our marriage, it's like God put us together. Whatever, I mean, yes, it's like I don't know, it's not accidental. It's a providential, really, from God. It's God who made a way of this marriage. Without him, we cannot do it. It's like a miracle. It was him who did it. It was him.
No way this happened on our own power. None.
The church teaches that the family, husband and wife, are the core of all society. That's where all society starts. Forget governments, forget cultures, and forget everything if you don't have marriage. And the debasement of marriage in our modern society has destroyed the happiness that you two folks obviously have.
Yeah.
And that is the shame. Forget the theological things. I just want to say, so in this interview, I see the glow of happiness between you. That in modern culture in America, a marriage is a drudgery, or it's a grind, or it's a no. Wait a minute. I'm not saying you guys don't.
No, it's true. It's true. It's true.
No, but I'm not saying you guys don't have hard times. You don't fight. You don't have. Nobody says that. And in fact, if you're not fighting, you are not a good married couple. If you're just like sterile couples staring at each other and you don't have a good throwdown once in a while, you're not doing it right. But my point is that that marriage is not considered the pinnacle anymore by the broader society in our country. And it makes it very hard on our young people. As a father of 5 young adults, I have very much despair that I will ever see grandkids in this world the way they have it set up.
Yeah, or they'll end up marrying somebody they shouldn't, and you'll see a grandkid, but then it'll be a custody of the wife later on, and her parent,
right. Yeah. The idea is
and I want to add,
marriage is just another like subscription.
Yeah,
like
for now,
Channel.
What have you done for me lately?
Yeah, but I mean, the marriage itself is like a subscription. It's like a Disney Channel. It's like a Netflix subscription. Yeah, if it's not going to work.
And I want to add some other gratefulness to God here, because, what you were just saying. We've been married now for almost 6 years, and while we do have our issues, it's not many at all. We're still on a honeymoon. every day is it. And to anybody that's listening out there, any kids, especially younger guy, you know, this is what life is about. And your own personal, oh, you know, hey, I'm used to putting my glasses here, but she wants them over here.
Right.
Who cares?
Yeah, who cares in the end of the
Okay,
day?
let it go.
Mhm.
We are on a honeymoon still. Every day we look in each other's eyes and love each other because, you know, we've had it, and tell each other. And the other thing I'm grateful for God is the bigger picture of marriage is, of course, children. But by the time God brought us together, and I'm not going personal here, that was
Yeah,
that was an impossibility with one of
Okay,
us.
that's fine.
Okay.
Didn't-
So
well, wait a minute.
well, as far as natural
Naturally
children,
speaking, if God's interested.
but so the point is, children were never a possibility out of this. God still honored and loved us enough to give us this marriage, even though children could not be the outcome, you know. And so, you know, it's just an amazing story that I love to share. She loves to share, and you know, our friends are
Well, listen,
envious.
a good marriage that's established in love and, you know, are open to children, which is obviously you too. You're open to children, but it's not an issue now. It's certain is like a star in the sky. I mean, it's like the point is that we're trying to put an example out there. It says that no, marriage isn't some inferior choice. It is actually the most superior choice for a man and a woman in any society.
Yep.
And the ridiculousness of homo-sodomite marriages and the ridiculousness of
No. You mean sodomite fake marriage?
our present pope. Yeah, right. Our present pope pushing for the idea of divorced and remarried people being just as good as anyone else. As a child of divorce myself,
Yeah, me
so
too.
what I'm saying is that I bet you that played into it. So you're a child of divorce. I'm glad you brought that up. It wasn't too personal. When I experienced the divorce as a child, I realized that if I ever got the chance to be married, I will not let it go. I don't care what kind of like turkey crap sandwiches I got to eat to get through it. I'm doing it. And I think
Well,
divorce, like ironically, divorce, unlike marriage, is put up as some kind of like, it didn't work out. We're all good buddies. It was the best thing we could ever do, get divorced. We all love our kids. It doesn't matter. No, I don't think that actually happens. I think every divorce is extremely painful, especially if there's children. And you guys are a beacon of the good marriage, and I don't see how. I don't see how people despise marriage so much. I just don't get it. I mean, I've been married, so I'm married 30. I want to say 34 years. My wife's gonna kill me. The women know the dates.
That's normal.
34 years, 35
yeah,
years.
I forget the date all the time.
And no, I just can't even imagine. It's like I would be missing my right arm. So,
Oh God, yeah. I mean, without her, there is no life. I mean, it's like saying without like you said, without my left arm, except I could live better without my left arm
right,
than her.
right.
Okay. Take my left arm. I don't care. Not her.
I have to tell you, if anything were to ever happen to my wife, God forbid, I would have to go hire an accountant because I don't even know. I don't even know what bills I owe every month.
I don't even know what pills I got to take for my health every day. And she fills up my pill case, and I just trust she's putting them in it and not killing
Boy,
me.
you better be nice to this woman. You better be nice because one day that pill might.
You know what's funny is the one thing we compete with.
Yeah.
We're both cooks. We both love to cook. We both love to expand. So we have our fortes, but we also like to expand. So our competition is with cooking to outdo each other. So, and we love feeding people. So it's just the two of us.
I'll be right over.
Yeah, it's just the two of us, but we cook all the time, and we cook for like 20 people. We even have to-go plates in our house that we give to people just to take food home. Because so if it's Chinese food that she's making or Italian, or I do the smoked meat. So one of the things we always do is compete cooking. So
Right. That's great. Oh my gosh. So this has really been a great discussion. We're coming up on almost an hour, so we got 4 minutes left. But your story is a story that says if you have faith, you will find a spouse. So the key is stay in the faith, and if you're really searching, yeah.
Keep
Okay.
praying.
Especially in today's day and age, because, you know, it may have been 40, 50, or maybe we look at it with, you know, rosy eyes, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
may have been back in the day where, you know, you live in a small town, but out of the 200 girls that lived there, 50 of them were good Catholics. So you
Right.
could choose. Well, today, there's nothing. So faith is even
Well,
more important.
thanks to our liberal church, they don't even think it's relevant whether the other person is Catholic or not.
Well, yeah, they don't care. So to really find that thing, you have to have faith, because this, maybe in war, the big thing one day was, you have to have faith God's going to not let a bullet hit you.
Right.
Today, the big test is you have to have faith God's going to bring you a spouse, because the normal ways to do it in the past don't
Are
exist
gone.
anymore.
Yeah,
They're
they're
gone.
gone.
So we didn't maybe need as much faith to find a spouse, 100 years ago. Today we do.
Right.
That's the key.
Right.
That's
So
the key.
the parents should be encouraged to support or promote or push or inculcate into their children as much possible faith as they can. Because the happiness of a marriage is inexplainable, but should be obtainable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen. So what I'm going to do is we're going to say goodbye to Paul and Janet, and I want to thank you guys for your great story. Seriously, I think this will go viral. You're going to be the making of Joseph Brothers channel with this one. Good night, folks.
Bye, guys.